All right, so if you're looking to sell a home here in Vegas, again, like I just mentioned, make sure you hire a knowledgeable professional, and also consider all financing options for that potential buyer. Something that Rachel had on there is that your VA loan is assumable, okay? So what that means, that's an advantage for you as a buyer, and also advantage for you if you're selling a property. Why? Because it casts a wider net of people that could buy that property, because now they potentially do not have to deal with that market interest rate. They could assume your interest rate. That may be 3 or 4%. That means they could qualify for a lot more home in that situation there, okay? So definitely utilize that. Typically, if you're going to allow somebody to assume your mortgage, if they're a veteran, their entitlement takes over. But if you have a non-veteran, they could assume the loan as well, but they'll still have your entitlement. So keep a mind of that, right? So, and then also if you're at your retirement stages, right? And let's say the home is paid off or nearly paid off. Well, you might want to say, hey, you know what? I don't need this big lump sum of money in the bank right now, but I want to sell this property. Maybe I could go ahead and do seller financing here, right? Opens up the door for a lot of individuals if you're able to do seller financing, because the person doesn't have to qualify for those traditional loan standards. You know, maybe they have a whole bunch of money in a shoebox somewhere, but they don't have the 2 years job history or something along those lines. So cast that net as wide as possible when you're trying to sell your property, okay? And also price the home based on the current market. Price it appropriately, okay? Yesterday's price is not today's price. I know we heard 2021 people was getting 50,000, 100,000 over asking and that sort of thing. So the market has changed. So definitely think about that. Yes.
Question: when you sell it, do you include improvements to your home, like new fencing, new, like built a fire pit in my yard, stuff like that? Does that increase the value of the home?
Yeah.
The new piping system, the new floors.
Absolutely. So there's different, yeah. So because basically what you're doing when you remodel a property, you're extending the useful life of that home. Okay. So a home useful life, when they're doing it with appraisals, and I won't get into all of that, but let a licensed appraiser explain it to you. But a home useful life is about 50 years, okay? So the total useful life of a property when they depreciate that property, okay? So when you remodel different things in a property, it extends that useful life of the home, okay? So
hypothetically speaking, I paid $400,000 for the house. I put $250,000 in. I can get maybe $125,000 additional to the selling cost?
So it depends on what improvements you made, and sometimes you can over improve a property, right? So it just depends on the area, which is why, again, I have on here, definitely consider making the repairs if you're looking to sell your home. If you're working with the realtor like myself, you know, I'm going to be able to either help you figure out ways to finance or get funding to do those things, or we can kind of partner and do some different things where we'll make sure that house is going to be in tip-top shape so that you can get the maximum money that you deserve for that property, okay?
How does solar systems fit into that process?
Oh man, solar systems, it depends on what appraiser that you ask, but they usually do not add much value based on what you're paying for them, okay? So depending on the size of the home, you might pay $30,000, $40,000 for it. It may add $20,000 worth of value to the property. And also, I think what happens a lot with solar is that you have to look out, because a lot of people are leasing solar panels, right? And then they're financing them as well. And the average person here in Las Vegas only live in their home 7 years, right? So if you only want to add solar panels if that's going to be your forever home, and then buy a home with solar panels if that's going to be your forever home, or if the solar panels are already paid off, or the seller's going to pay them off at closing, okay? Because you don't want to assume that solar lease or the solar payment, because it also impacts how much a buyer can afford when you have the solar panel. So let's say this person and the neighbor, one person has solar and the other does not, right? So you want $500 for your house with no solar panels. They want $520 for their house with solar panels, but the buyer is going to look at that. Now, what Rachel is going to have to do is those solar panels, that monthly payment calculates towards their debt to income ratio, right? So now they might want the house with solar, but might not be able to afford it because of that payment messes up their debt to income ratio. So solar is very touchy for those different reasons, right? So, and then also people want to pick their own solar companies and different things of that nature. So if you buy solar personally and you're going to retire and live there, great. But don't look at that as increasing the value. I think in the future it can a little bit, but even sort of with pools, right? Right now you may spend anywhere between $60,000 to $90,000 to put in a pool. From an appraiser standpoint, he's only going to give you an extra $25,000 on that appraisal. But your house may sell a lot faster because of that pool, especially right now that we're going into summer months and it's very, very hot, right? So there's not a lot of homes on the market with a pool right now. So if you have a pool and you want to sell, it's going to go really quickly. Absolutely. So, yeah. So, and this is why I always, when I list a home for sale, I have the seller, we get an appraisal before we list it on the market. Not a lot of realtors do that. They wait for the buyer to get the appraisal. But why do I want to wait for my potential buyer to tell me what my home is worth? It literally costs, and I pay for it for all my clients, $75 for me to go get a restricted use appraisal to know how much this property costs. My appraiser gets that back to me in 3 days. Why am I going to play game and not get that done ahead of time, right? And, you know, my broker, old school guy, he taught me that, right? He taught me that. So, and I've been implementing that ever since, right? Doing that and also getting the home inspected myself. If I'm selling a property, I don't want this buyer to come, get the home inspected, tell me all these things that are wrong with the property, and it's my first time hearing it. I want to know what's wrong with the property first so I could either price the home accordingly based on that or get those situations remedied before I put it on the market. Very easy, simple stuff, right? When you really know the information and you kind of think about it, you're like, oh, like, why didn't I think of that? You know, because it's just, it helps speed up the process when selling your home. So